Viktor Frankl was a Jewish psychiatrist who survived the Holocaust and later developed a revolutionary approach to psychotherapy called logotherapy. His book, Man's Search for Meaning, is based on his experiences in the concentration camps and the philosophy he created from those experiences. The book is divided into two parts. Frankl's personal account of his time in Nazi concentration camps, the principles of logotherapy, his therapeutic approach for finding meaning in life. What makes Frankl's story particularly profound is that despite the unimaginable suffering and brutality he endured, he found a way to live with purpose, dignity, and inner peace. Man's search for meaning is not only about surviving trauma, but about finding meaning in life even in the most desperate circumstances. Frankl argues that meaning is the primary motivation in human life, more fundamental than the pursuit of happiness or pleasure. Part 1. Experiences in a concentration camp. Frankl begins the first part of the book with a deeply personal account of his time in Nazi concentration camps, including Auschwitz. His narrative is haunting and stark, yet Frankl's observations are not merely about the horrors of the camps. He also focuses on how the inmates coped with their suffering and, more importantly, how some of them were able to find meaning in their suffering. Frankl writes about the psychological effects the camps had on the prisoners. Some succumbed to despair, while others were able to hold on to a sense of purpose, even in the face of cruelty, starvation, and death. Frankl's central observation was that those who had a sense of purpose were far more likely to survive. Whether it was the hope of seeing loved ones again, the desire to complete an unfinished piece of work, or a commitment to a spiritual belief, purpose was the key to enduring suffering. Frankl highlights a poignant example, a prisoner who was a writer. He was convinced that if he survived the camp, he would complete his literary work. This hope, Frankl suggests, helped the man endure horrific conditions and maintain his strength. Key lesson: when a person has a sense of purpose, they can endure almost anything. The prisoners who lost all sense of meaning or who were unable to find a sense of purpose quickly succumbed to despair. For Frankl, this was the essence of human survival. It wasn't physical strength alone, but the psychological strength derived from finding meaning. Part 2. The Search for Meaning. After the liberation of the concentration camps, Frankl went on to develop his therapeutic approach, logotherapy, which focuses on helping people find meaning in their lives. In the second part of the book, Frankl outlines the core principles of logotherapy. This section is not just for those who have experienced extreme suffering, but also for anyone seeking a deeper understanding of life's meaning. 1. Life has meaning under all circumstances. Frankl's first principle is that life has meaning under all circumstances, even the most miserable ones. The search for meaning is the primary motivational force in human beings. Frankl contrasts this approach with the existential despair that arises when people cannot find meaning. For him, despair is the result of unresolved meaninglessness. Through his years of clinical practice, Frankl saw that people who lost their sense of purpose would often face depression and anxiety. For instance, many people, after surviving great personal loss, find themselves asking, "What now?" Frankl suggests that finding meaning in life after loss, or even during suffering, is what enables a person to keep going. Meaning is not something that happens after life, it happens during life. Example: Frankl gives the example of a prisoner who had a deep attachment to his family. Despite everything, this prisoner found purpose in imagining being reunited with his loved ones. For this man, the thought of being with his family again gave his suffering meaning, allowing him to hold on to hope and endure even the harshest conditions. 2. Freedom of choice, the last of human freedoms. One of the core concepts of logotherapy is the idea of freedom of choice. Frankl writes that no one can take away your freedom to choose how to respond to any given situation. Even in the concentration camps, the Nazis could strip prisoners of their possessions, their homes, and even their dignity, but they could not take away their ability to choose how they responded to their suffering. Frankl argues that the ultimate freedom is the ability to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. This is where human beings have control, regardless of external conditions. The ability to choose one's attitude towards suffering, hardship, and even joy is what makes people uniquely human. Example: Frankl recalls the story of an elderly man who chose to maintain his dignity in the face of being humiliated by the guards. Even though his external circumstances were dire, he chose to retain his inner freedom, a small but significant victory. 3. The meaning of suffering. Another key idea Frankl explores is the meaning of suffering. He acknowledges that suffering is an inevitable part of life, but he insists that suffering only becomes unbearable when it lacks meaning. Frankl contends that we can find meaning in suffering when we choose to see it as part of a larger context of our lives. In the camps, Frankl observed that prisoners who were able to find meaning in their suffering were more likely to survive. Some of these prisoners found meaning in their suffering by choosing to help others, or by using their suffering as a form of spiritual or philosophical growth. Others found meaning in their suffering by imagining a future goal that would make their suffering worthwhile. Key lesson: suffering is not inherently meaningless, and it is possible to find meaning in even the most painful experiences. It is the attitude we take toward suffering that determines whether it has meaning or not. Part 3: Practical Applications of Logotherapy. In the final chapters of the book, Frankl explores how logotherapy can be applied in everyday life. He discusses the importance of setting goals and finding a purpose, even in seemingly mundane activities. Frankl argues that people who focus on something larger than themselves, whether it's a cause, a career, or a personal project, can often find a renewed sense of purpose and meaning in their lives. 4. The will to meaning. Frankl introduces the concept of the will to meaning as the primary driving force in human life. In contrast to Freud's idea of the will to pleasure and Adler's idea of the will to power, Frankl suggests that the will to find meaning is what drives human behavior. This desire to find meaning shapes our actions, relationships, and even our response to suffering. Frankl emphasizes that the pursuit of meaning is not about finding a grand singular purpose in life, but about creating meaning through daily actions and decisions. For instance, a person can find meaning in the way they treat others, in their work, or even in their hobbies. The book's lasting legacy and final words. In closing, Frankl offers a powerful message. The search for meaning is a lifelong journey. He suggests that we should not wait for the perfect moment to start living a meaningful life. Instead, we must seek meaning every day, in every moment, and in every situation. Life is fleeting, and Frankl urges us to make each moment count. In his own life, Frankl lived by the principles of logotherapy, choosing to embrace the struggle of life as an opportunity for growth and meaning. He encouraged others to live intentionally, to find purpose in their daily lives, and to never give up on finding meaning even in the darkest of times. Conclusion: the search for meaning is universal. Man's Search for Meaning is not just a book about surviving the worst of human suffering. It is a book about finding purpose even in the face of suffering. Frankl teaches that the ultimate meaning of life is something we must define for ourselves. Through our choices, our actions, and our responses to adversity, we create meaning in our lives. For anyone who has ever struggled to find purpose or who feels lost in the chaos of life, Frankl's work offers a profound message. Meaning is not given to us, it is something we must find for ourselves. Whether through helping others, pursuing our passions, or overcoming hardships, we have the power to create meaning in our lives.
Be part of our journey. If you find our content valuable and inspiring, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with our latest videos. Your support motivates us to keep going and bring you the best content, so don't forget to leave a like and share the video with those who might benefit.